So for here, we would write a literary analysis, and you could do a text only literary analysis, meaning we would take no outside information. And what you want to do here is come up with a central idea or message of the text. And then you would talk about how one writing strategy, all of these literary elements and devices that you just filled out in the literary study guide, those we would choose one and discuss how that developed a central idea of the text. And then remember, you would want to read all this that whoever you're writing, your audience, they already read the story. So it is not necessary to retell the work. Rather, it is your role to be the explainer or interpreter. All right, so one central idea. When young people experience their first crush, there is likely to be a lot of confusion. Then you could say something like James Joyce's short story, Araby, shows readers what life was like in very strict Catholic societies. And this one you would be kind of saying, like, no one ever told this boy what, well, sexual feelings are. So he just doesn't know, and it's causing all this frustration. We could also say, at some point in a person's life, they stop hanging out with their childhood friends and move on to adult relationships because he is watching out the window and looking at his friends and he's not going. So those could be some brainstorms. That would be your thesis. I was going to show you. So at the end of our study guide is a journal. So this would be a literary journal. Now, sometimes when you write a literary essay or you're assigned one, they would want you to find a source. So this would be an example of a literary source. It's the Mediterranean Journal of Social Sciences. It's a post-colonial study of the short story Araby. All right, so it starts. We can annotate this one a little bit, and you could use it when you're, if you wanted to, some ideas. But when you do a text only, normally we don't want to use any outside sources, but we will just want some ideas here. The short story that this essay selected to investigate a post colonial theory and critical approach is 15 short stories in a collection, Dublineer. So that's what he wrote this from. Having in mind 10 short stories to be included. So he added Araby. And all right, so the book as a whole was supposed to be an analysis of the Irish middle and lower classes. Dublin, both the geographical setting as well as the physiological status with this collection. And then it goes on. All right. Araby from the post-colonial. It's primarily based on post-colonial binary oppositions, such as the emergence of superior, inferior, self-other, as well as supranational national concepts such as language and religion. Because the people had a British accent that he noticed. Araby is a special case since the opposition between East and West is not that much evident to claim at least cultural domination by a neighbor country through, although a British influence should not be overlooked. The question is how a government can culturally colonize another nation while sharing maritime borders. This latter will be addressed by indulging a cultural criticism. So basically, this would be saying that the whole point of the story is to show this boy was living in like poverty, but that would be hard to write about from a text only because I guess it did show some poverty. All right, but in your introduction, we'll go back up here. So we just want our data publication. So for our introduction, you want to give a brief little rundown, right? And I did this down here, all right? So we can kind of edit one of them. Now, in my introduction, I have Araby by James Joyce is a masterful piece of a short fiction that delves into themes of disillusionment, longing, and the loss of innocence. Through the use of rich symbolism, Joyce creates a vivid portrayal of a young boy's journey from idealistic infatuation to stark reality that still resonates with readers today. Now, I'm going to take this part and put it in my intro. I want this here because it's my little meat and potato. So I have the story is set in Dublin, a city characterized by its grayness and stagnation, mirroring the protagonist's own sense of confinement and frustration. The boy, I'm going to put the narrator. The narrator, whose name is never revealed, becomes infatuated with his friend Magda's sister, elevating her to a pedestal of idealized beauty and impurity. She becomes a subject of Tuina's affection. All right. And then this would be, I'm going to keep this. So wait, we would say to win her affections. The narrator's visions of a romantic future with Magna were never to come to fruition. However, because he leaves the bazaar empty handed and filled with anxiousness. All right, through the use, then I'm going to use the symbolism. So now, if I go back here, we have idealistic infatuation to stark reality. So, if I would focus this essay on symbolism, with the priest being a dead priest, it could have been a dead anyone, right? But James Joyce chose a priest. We have, through the use of rich symbolism, Joyce creates a vivid portrayal of a young boy's journey from idealistic childhood to the stark realities, we'll say to the stark realities of adulthood that still resonate with readers. Wait, I want to take this out. We'll say through the rich symbolism, Joyce creates a vivid portrayal of a young boy's, we could say, of a religious, of a Catholic young boy, of a young, we'll say, of a young Catholic boy journey. Young Catholic boy's journey. There we go. The narrator describes the street. It's quiet until the Christian Brothers School sets the boys free. Right away, this showing readers right away that religion plays an oppressive role in the lives of the characters. Even in the narrator's home, he spends his time in the back drawing room where a priest had died. Joyce could have chosen any occupation for the former Tinteb, but he specifically made the tenant a priest. This symbolic choice builds the idea that the narrator has turned away from religion and wants to live his life as he wishes. The second time the narrator mentions the drawing room, he again informs the reader that the priest had died there. This makes the symbolic reference more obvious because of the narrator's restatement. I'm kind of explaining here why this is symbolic, right? So for something to be symbolism, you usually have to show that it came up more than once, right? At the end of page 2, the narrator cries out for his crush, cries out for his crush in the drawing room, showing that he has no more use for his religious values. Catholicism would have placed strict rules against dating, so the deceased priest is used to show the narrator's journey from obedient child to adult, we could just say to rebellious adulthood, because now he's not supposed to be dating. And in fact, if he were to go and confess his sins to his local priest, they would tell him he was sinning. Just stop thinking about her at all. That's like all they would say, and to do like their repentance. So this could show, I'm trying to say that this story and the priest being symbolic of the boy has turned his back on religion and now he's going to live this rebellious life. But maybe he went back and he chose the other way, because in the end, you could say that too. Because in the end, he's standing there gazing up into the darkness. I saw myself creature driven. Maybe we could say he changed his mind and wanted to go back to his religious values. Because I could say the ending of the story is poignant and bittersweet as the boy realizes the futility of his quest and the emptiness of his desires. He recognizes the limitations of his own perspective and the inevitability of disappointment in life. The closing image of him, standing alone in the darkness, encapsulates his isolation from the church and the loss of innocence that comes from the harsh reality of life. Without a religious faith. The harsh reality without a religious faith. Standing alone encapsulates isolation from the church and the loss of innocence that comes with the harsh light of reality without a religious faith. Araby is a timeless exploration of the complexities of the human experience regarding religion and coming of age. So maybe he came back to religion. We don't know. You could argue that he did, but you could argue that is just an interpretation. And maybe the priest being a dead priest being the old tenant of this kid's house has nothing to do with anything. You could argue that too. You could choose a different central idea, that the story's central idea shows that putting too much effort into a crush can be embarrassing later. That's kind of a universal experience. Wait. So if you went up here and you wanted to put one of those central ideas, you could say the story is a warning for what can happen when a person gets too obsessed with a love interest. It could cause issues. So any of these central ideas, you could just choose how. You could even do one. Wait, the story. Oops, the story is, and then you could say this is developed through the use of conflict because the narrator is totally obsessed with a girl that he doesn't even know. It causes frustration and anxiety throughout his day. So that would be the conflicts. I'm just talking about how does this conflict affect the boy. And that would be a literary analysis essay for Araby.